Hello, my name is Renee L. Rose. I'm the founder of Explore Art Talk. With Explore Art, our featured guests, we have meaningful conversations celebrating artistic and cultural diversity that makes our world extraordinary. So sit back, relax, and check out our content. Thank you for joining us today. Hi, Jasmine.
Hi there. It's nice to finally meet you.
Nice to meet you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Just trying to keep cool because it's really hot outside.
Yeah, Chicago weather and all that. It's pretty
Yeah,
hot.
it's supposed to be nice Thursday and Friday, so I think I'm gonna go out and take a walk on
Yeah.
the river or something just to get out
Oh,
there.
that sounds really nice.
So, why don't you start off telling me about yourself as an artist?
Yeah, pretty much been drawing my whole life, I would say, as an artist. It really started as early as probably I could think preschool.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it really started when like in kindergarten we had like these little prompts and I would write like we had these it's like practice to writing. And I would always just draw under it all the time. And then I realized after some time I also became kind of a horse girl, which I don't know if that's like a new like well I wouldn't say new phenomenon because that's a whole term itself, but I became that girl obsessed with horses in school. So I would draw them no matter what. And I think that made me want to draw more and more. And then in high school, I actually didn't do as much art, which was kind of surprising. Like it'd be on the
Oh,
side,
yeah.
solely because my parents really wanted me to be a doctor. Wanted
Oh
me to
boy.
do psychology. I know. So I was like, oh, it was kind of conflicting for me because I'm like, art is something I enjoy doing, but do I want it only as a hobby or do I want it as a career too?
Yeah.
So it kind of ended up being a career in a way. So I decided in high school, it was really just figuring it out. So I did do psychology classes. My
Mhm.
mom was very happy. I did kind of look into like health stuff, but then I did a couple art classes like printmaking. I really enjoyed that. Surprisingly, I only did maybe one painting class. Then I decided when it was time to pick out a university and all that, and choosing your major, I thought really long and hard and I said, I'm majoring in art. My mom was just like, oh, after all of this, you're gonna major in art. And I'm like, yeah. So here we are.
So you went
But
off to the University of Illinois. Why did you choose that particular school as opposed to like the Art Institute or something else?
honestly, I did get accepted at the Art Institute. They did give me a scholarship, which was really nice. It was a good scholarship that they
Yeah.
gave me, but I could not afford it. I couldn't afford it with that scholarship too.
Yeah,
And it's just like I think a lot of that played a part with that was
I can
affording it.
understand that.
Affording, yeah. Yeah, with like art school, I love the Art Institute. Like that school's fantastic. I've had like some summer classes there
Yes.
before.
Yeah.
They're fantastic teachers. We've had, I've visited several times. But yeah, it really kind of came down to affordability. There was also
Yes.
Loyola, but I wasn't a
Yeah.
big fan of their art programs. Like it was really at the time, at least then, it was like just drawing and painting. While
Okay.
UIC, they had an actual extensive art program.
Yeah, they
So
do.
yeah, I've done like new media, which I never thought I'd be interested,
Mm.
but working with like computers to do art was
Yes.
pretty cool too.
Yeah.
So it was kind of really just I wanted to have a huge experience in different like disciplines within
Yes.
the art field. So UIC really had everything I was kind of looking for while also being a bit affordable for me as well.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. So when you
Yeah.
graduated, where did you go from there? What did you start doing?
I actually started looking into internships. So I started working at Awakenings, which was an art gallery for survivors of sexual violence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was really important to me and personal to me as well, just because a lot of my artwork stems from my own personal experiences. So it was kind of me kind of exploring, like working with people who kind of have that similar background, but also kind of navigating my own personal journey. So it was a lot of that and also trying to do a lot more exhibitions because I do think the one thing that they didn't really teach me in school was how to market yourself,
Yeah,
how
usually a lot of
to
art schools don't. Yeah.
yeah, they don't really teach like, oh, how to market yourself. Like not even like I had to teach myself how to do the whole like art portfolio, the art website. Like
Oh,
I had
yeah.
to really look into that, a lot of YouTube tutorials because they would tell you like, oh, they teach you art, they teach you all these different
Yeah,
disciplines,
but
but
they
I
don't teach you
think
the business part of art.
yes, and I think that's really important because I think that's where a
Yes.
lot of people falter. That's a lot of
Yeah.
times. Like I see people who get that degree and then they don't really know what to do with it. And so then they kind of falter back, like, I don't know where to go. What do I do next? Like I could get a master's, and that is something I'm interested in, definitely. But it's like, do I want a master's in art? Do I want a master's in art administration? Like, there's like different things that I'm interested in, but where do I want to go exactly? I want to make sure that I know where like the direction I want to go as well because it's something
That's
like,
smart. I think
yeah,
you're guiding yourself well.
yeah.
So, don't you think that Gen Z has a little of advantage because you guys use everything's now marketing's in the social media, and you guys are very adept and very comfortable with that. Don't you think that gives you a little bit of an edge?
Yes, but I think there's also an oversaturation of that. Like, I
Oh,
think like content creation. I know like growing up, it was like a lot of people would start making like YouTube channels, different things. It was like my little dream to make a YouTube channel. Back then, I wanted to be a makeup artist. So it was like,
oh,
so I
you're
was like,
still an
oh,
artist.
yeah. But I was like, oh, I wanted to do this. But then after like I believe like after 2016, everyone was doing that kind of thing, which is not a bad thing. It's fun to see so many people, all their creative like projects, everything that they do, all the artwork they do, all the makeup that they do, really fun. And it's also nice to see people share their techniques, that's very accessible. But I do think like, yes, we do have an advantage, for sure, but I also think it's super oversaturated. So it actually kind of feels hard to get it kind of break out still. Like now because it's like a new market, like instead of it being like harder to be like in person to share stuff or anything, it's just now it's like you have to kind of fight with other people on the internet for that little space,
Yeah.
to that exposure.
And plus,
Yeah.
there are, even before social media, there are so many outstanding visual artists out there. So you still have to share your space and figure out, don't you think, how to get noticed and how to market your particular artwork?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's like a really big part. Because yeah, of course, like back then it's like you really had to show, like you had to exhibit your artwork. If you didn't, like it would have been very hard. You would have to be very forward with it as well. Like, hey, pass out like little like brochures, different things showing your artwork. Hey, little business cards, different things like that. And even now, I've seen like I went to different exhibitions, people still pass out physical cards because I think that gives more of an impact. You could give your Instagram handle, of course, which is just easy because you just have to follow. And you could start seeing all of their work. But I've started to notice a lot of people are kind of trying to go back to that physical as well
Oh,
and going
really?
with, yeah, with people
Yeah.
locally, like trying to get
Yes.
people in your community to kind of look and view your art rather than kind of reaching out towards like the whole, international audience.
Yeah.
Of course, it's really nice to have like a huge international audience, but I think a lot of people are reaching out to kind of go back to have those local audiences as well.
Okay. So how did you get into and settle into mixed medium as opposed to other different mediums?
That actually was at UIC that where I kind of decided. I actually was an oil painter for some
Oh,
time. Like
really?
when I started oil painting, I did acrylic before that. Didn't really learn oil painting until UIC. And then I had a very amazing professor, Sherwin Ovid, he's fantastic, who really got me interested into oil painting. But I did a lot of portraits. And then in actually, I think it was like my junior towards senior year when we had like our thesis project, which was like that final art show at the end.
Yeah.
I had another professor, her name was Sylvia, and my thesis professor was his name is Nate Young. He said, like, oh, I think you should like do kind of some kind of specific direction that's really like internal to you. Because I noticed that you kind of delve into nostalgia a lot, but it's like there's
Oh.
something about, drawing those like symbols, like, hey, I could draw like things from my childhood very directly, very realistically, but what is it that makes you reach out to that? And that's another thing that like Sylvia pointed out to me. She said, what makes you reach into that? And then I started delving into abstraction, instead of just like making these very literal forms. And also, it made me realize, oh, I want to use physical objects as well. So that mixed media part came in, like adding like little pieces of like old dolls, adding all these little textures, because these are all like objects that I've had for a long time. And I
Mhm.
try to incorporate them into my paintings, kind of just like to piece it together, because I feel like that to me gives more of a meaning, like a personal meaning, to have those actual literal objects instead of just painting that representation of them on flatly onto the canvas.
So I did notice in your artist statement, you have talked about the things that have really touched you in your life and being able to express that. Why did you choose to do that? Is it because you wanted to convey that to your audience, and did you want to have a connection to something that would be relatable?
It's kind of both. Like, I know there's
Okay.
a lot of people that internalize like a lot of what they've gone through. So, a lot of times when people view my art, like at least I've noticed, like a lot of their comments instantly is like that visual like recognition of what they see right there directly. Like, oh my gosh, that's like My Little Pony. I grew up with that. So they get this kind of joy like viewing it. So a lot of it is positive, like people really love seeing like these actual visual representations of some things from their childhood. I think a lot of Gen Z really love going back to like that childhood nostalgia.
Oh,
um
wow. Why do
yeah
you
I
think they like doing that? I didn't know that. Wow.
yeah I could only really expand. Maybe it's just because of that this like current climate. I've noticed for the
Mm.
past decade, like it's kind of been like that where a lot of people are like, "Oh, I really wish, we were back in the 2000s." I think it's same for every
Oh,
generation. Like, "Oh, I miss the 90s. Oh, I miss the 80s. I miss the 70s." It's like it's kind of repeating itself. So a lot of us are like missing the 2000s. We miss like that nice like having to listen to like awesome like R&B and having that like there's like even very specific, like I've seen a lot of TikToks about this, but it's like, like trying to recreate those vibes of like 2005.
oh, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. But like wearing the big tall tees, and it's just like I noticed that people are kind of reverting back fashion wise, and then in like I noticed like some like particular artists too I follow, and some artists and me as well. I really love delving into nostalgia just because it's kind of a healing thing for me. Like
Okay.
going back to childhood, healing the inner child is like a big thing for me. So it's like, okay,
Oh,
these things, yeah. It's like these things that I
that's from
haven't
your
really gotten.
psychology. Maybe
Yeah,
from your
yeah.
psychology classes.
Yeah, I feel
Hmm.
like that, they tie in together for sure. They definitely tie in together and kind of trying to understand like why is it like, mentally like why do I want to go back, to a time where it was probably like traumatizing for me, but why do I want to kind of go back and be like, hey, let me nurture that past part of me. It's not like rewriting the past, but it's more like, hey, like, those things that I enjoyed and loved, let me reclaim that back. And that's what I like to put in my artwork. And I do notice there's a lot of people, especially like when I was working at my internship, a lot of people were talking about, yeah, nostalgia is a huge part of their healing process because it's like this thing about that inner child and kind of going back, nurturing them, because they
Yeah,
didn't really
and
have that
understanding
safety.
and
Mm-hmm.
understanding the
Yeah.
experience so you can
Mm-hmm.
grow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in your mixed medias, kind of describe your process of creating your mixed medium paintings?
Oh, it's kind of a disaster, to be honest.
Why do you
Um,
say that?
Um, like I could even talk about one of my more recent ones. I always start off with an idea. Of course, like I have something very specific image in my head, and that's where the problem lies, is because I start painting. Like I recall like my last painting, I just wanted to draw a teddy bear. I said, I'm gonna paint this, I'm gonna paint it really realistically. I wanted to add things to it like sequins, glitter, things I enjoy, and just kind of make that kind of collage type thing. That didn't pan out. I got frustrated. I took some modeling paste, just started covering the whole thing. Then I hated that. I said the texture is terrible. I let that dry. And then I said, you know what? I hate it. I started scraping it down. And then I said, nope, I don't like that. So then I started painting it over. Then I said, I hated that. Put more modeling paste, scratched it off. And then suddenly I was like, whoa, I love this. So it's kind of like a chaotic,
So you kind of go
you
with
know,
the flow, the way it
yeah,
carries
like
you.
I would say like it's very intuitive. Like
Okay,
it's kind
okay,
of building layers. I would probably
okay.
call that like that. Like it's just building those layers, and then there's something that happens in that process. So it's a bit hard to describe because I can't really give a step by step,
That's
but
okay.
it's
Every
really
artist has
just
a different step
yeah.
or a different process. So, since you say you kind of go with the flow and you go intuitively, how do you know when you've come to which is hard for a lot of artists, when you have finally finished the piece?
On well, this is something I'm still trying to learn.
Yeah,
Because
we do.
yeah, because I feel like I keep touching up on it. I'm like, oh, it needs something, throughout the day. And then I realize, you know what I should do is just stop for the day and just wake up the next morning and see what it needs.
Ah,
I think it's just that when you're kind of staring at that work for a very long time and you're just working with it, working with it, working with it, you keep thinking you need more of that. You
yeah,
need to add something.
yeah.
It's something's missing. What's better, I think, is just, to sleep it off, just wake up the next morning and kind of see like, oh, maybe it didn't need anything at all. Actually, it looks great now. I think that's
Step
what I
back.
do.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
a lot
stepping
of artists
back.
do that.
Yeah.
So have you been developing series of work around a certain theme?
Yeah, actually, I just started on one. It was titled
Oh,
Kindergarten 2005. Yeah, it's currently being exhibited at
wow.
Purple Window Gallery.
Okay.
Um, yeah, right downtown. But it is going to be a series. It's all small paintings, so it's literally 5 inch by 5 inch. They're very
Oh,
tiny.
yeah, that's yeah,
Um,
nice.
yeah, because usually I work a little bigger. I always wanted to work a lot bigger,
Yeah.
which is what kind of that goal that I want to do. But I decided like these smaller works and making that kind of series, and that one's kind of just like literally like bite-sized pieces of just like,
A
my
thoughts.
imagination. Yeah, just like
Yeah.
my brain. Like,
So how many
so
pieces do you have in the 5x5s?
those ones, those are I'm doing a series of 3 of the 5 by
Okay.
5s, and then
Okay.
there's gonna be like 5 of 8 by 8s. So it's gonna be quite
Oh,
extensive. But yeah,
oh,
that is what I'm
wow.
working on.
So what's the
Yeah.
name of the theme?
Honestly, I titled that first piece Kindergarten 2005 because that was
Okay.
when that was probably like, not to like kill the mood, but it was kind of my first experience with trauma then.
Okay.
So it was quite early, but that
So
was
that's for
also
your
the
first,
time.
those are the three 5x5s. It's
Mm-hmm.
kindergarten 2005. So the eight
Mm-hmm.
by eights, are they gonna have the same name, the same theme?
No, I'm that one I'm still
Okay.
thinking about. I'm still thinking of a
Okay.
title. I think it's gonna happen, like the title will come up as I work on it. Because that's also something where I feel like I want to do a lot more textile type pieces. So I
Ooh,
think
that's
incorporating,
nice.
yeah, because I started incorporating embroidery. So I think those ones will
Oh,
have more of that because that's also something I was
oh, that's
thinking
gonna be
of.
a nice collage type
Yeah.
mixed media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, I wanted to tie with it because my culture, a lot of it, like being Pakistani, it is a lot
Oh,
of sewing, putting together like different types of
oh,
fabrics. Because my mother, she sewn everything, all my clothes. Like as a
oh,
child, she was sew.
yeah.
She has no patterns. She doesn't
That's how it
follow
was. I'm
anything.
much older than you. I'm old enough to be your grandmother, okay?
Wow.
Yes, when I was younger, my mom and my aunts, everybody sewed, and they did it without,
Mm.
patterns. They
Oh,
were really good. That was
yeah.
because I grew up in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Very common.
Yes. My
Oh,
no
that's
parents.
nice.
Yeah. So I wish I had that talent. Like, it's a very useful skill, but because of her doing that in my childhood, I learned to sew pretty quickly. Like
Oh, wow.
that, like maybe I was 8, 9, but I haven't, that's the one part like I've never really touched on. So I said, you know what, I think in these paintings, I want to touch more on that and that part of
You
my
can write an
culture.
artist statement to go with those.
Yeah, for sure.
Touching and it's about your background. That would be interesting to just,
Yeah.
just to explain that part of it. And then people can look at the pieces and kind of pick up what they want to pick up.
Yeah, because I do think like at least like we need more representation, like especially like Pakistani South Asian. I know there is a museum down here in Chicago.
Yes, yes.
But
Nice museum.
yeah, but I always have a hard time finding like peers, fellow Pakistani peers, who have that similar kind of I would say like themes, but they also it's really hard to find like fellow Pakistani artists.
Oh,
Um, in this Chicago space at least. Internationally I know there's a couple,
yeah.
but it's really hard to find because I know that all of us would really relate to like, oh yeah, all of our mothers like sew. We all do. We all have this
Well,
childhood
maybe you
memory.
will be the one, and you shouldn't just limit
Yeah.
yourself to Chicago, maybe the United States.
Yeah.
You'll be the one to bring that out, to get
Yeah.
them to be more visible, because it is
Mm-hmm.
important for people to understand your ethnic background based on your experiences. That will help people understand because it's very
Mm-hmm.
personal what you're doing. That's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also important, like history, like kind of
Yeah.
making sure, your parents' history, making sure that you continue on that cycle. Because that's something also big for me. And it's also something my mom, I don't know if it's like a immigrant mother type saying, but it's like, oh, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna die. What are you gonna do without me? Who's gonna remember me? It's very dramatic, but but she's like, oh, what's gonna happen? And I'm like, okay, mom, at least what she really means by that is she wants something, a part of her to kind of pass on.
Yes. Yes.
So
And
of
honor her.
course, yeah, and it's also just that important, like that's just how culture and back everyone's background, how it continues to live on, these
That's true.
traditions, different, and every part of everyone's culture. The only way it really lives on is through those generations and continuing on either by, stories, art, passing down like hand-me-downs, that kind of thing.
So, to end our conversation, I want to know, are you doing art full time now? Or do you have a job in the art world? Are you doing both?
Doing both.
Okay, that's good.
I have 2 jobs.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
but
good.
I do freelance a lot of art, and doing a lot of exhibitions right now, just because I feel like last year kind of slacked off a little bit just to focus on work, but I really wanted to focus more on exhibiting because it's fun. It's really fun
Yeah,
to do. But it's also really good because you do want to get more exposure. And I think
it's
that's the big
establishing
thing.
yourself.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
That's a big part for like a lot of us, I think Gen Z artists. We really want to like start establishing, and so that's why I really am happy that you gave me this opportunity.
Oh, you're
It's
such
yeah.
a joy. Your
Yeah.
art. It came
Thank you.
across for me looking at your art and your bio and your statement. It really comes out very positive and engaging. Makes
Yeah.
people want to be curious and, to find out about you.
Yeah, thank you so
So
much. Yeah.
thank you for responding, allowing me to actually put you in a magazine. I think this is going to be a good issue.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And thank you so much. This was really fun to like process so far. So I really enjoy and really enjoyed talking to you. It was really great. I loved, this whole conversation. It was great.
Okay.